I'm sorry, so I just woke up. It's not early. But I had a dream, and it was a weird dream actually. I was at a pet store, at a nutritional shop. I knew the people that worked at the pet store because I had worked with them. I, like four people there. Three girls and a guy, or two girls, one lady and a guy. I think the guy's character I pulled out of the movie It's a Boy's Life that I just recently saw because he was how did they put it in that movie? You could tell you could tell he played for the pink goat from the pink team. Um, and in one scene, one of the girls I thought that she was beautiful. I missed the bus and I had to go back in there and hang out with them. I had a puppy. One of the girls remembered that I had a lizard. It was crazy. It reminded me that at one point in time I had a bearded dragon, and it was a while back. It was going back to 2001 actually, then 2000. And one of the girls, because she knew me before, um, pointed out, "Oh well, we've got some right here for you." And I was like, "Some what?" She's like, "Oh, she's like confused. Some food." But I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "No, I don't have it anymore." I was like, "No, I got a puppy." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then I looked, and it was interesting because then they were feeding a really big bearded dragon that was probably looked to be about over a foot in size. And I was tripping out, and I wondered, that's crazy. Um, but when I woke up, I was thinking about the beautiful girl, and then I kind of wondered why she was beautiful and the other ones weren't. And something in my thought process took me down the road of if I like oh I along something along the lines of I sure would like to meet a girl like that, a girl that beautiful. It made me then think like, well, what would beauty really mean to me now? I think in essence it would just mean um, familiar, like in in a very realistic way, beauty, what we find beautiful, or the way we apply beauty to women or to girls, even. I'm sure that it's let's say for handsome, uh, is that there's something familiar. I guess they try to say that beauty is unique, and like supermodels, they try to get supermodels that look unique or something like that. And I'm not sure that their faces are unique as much as plain. And or typical. And the application of makeup is pretty deep because what I'm, if I could summarize this correctly, this just again on the waking up. Beauty is the beauty of a woman is the ability of a female to mimic an idea, to replicate it in herself. This is where the application of makeup comes in, is because makeup is used the same way. the military uses a uniform, and a woman says, "Oh, I love a man in uniform," not just the military, but other things. I love a man in uniform. Well, that's basically the same concept of beauty. And this is why the porn industry is probably so successful, because that in to men, whether ladies like it or not, or regardless of what the woman looks like in the purview of other women, it's the familiarity of it that is attractive. So, in a male-dominated society, and I guess this is not a real revelation or anything like that. It's just more like a critique of myself because I use this system, this method of thinking, in a real sense of reality. Females, from youth, from birth, are basically drilled into their head to that they have to that their primary objective is to identify external sources of beauty and to figure out ways in which to consolidate them or recreate them or manufacture them by altering their own appearance from their core self. Ooh, and you know what? And I think the other thing too with beauty has to do with the whole concept of the emphasis of religions, the male dominated chauvinistic religions that fetish and obsess over virginity. I think another thing that has to do with beauty is virginity. Like one of the things I was reading the Bible last night, and there's a portion in the Bible where one of the genocides in the Bible, God is saying to the Israel people of Israel, or the Hebrews, or whatever, the Jews, whatever you want to call them, go to this place and kill them all. Kill every man, woman, and child. Just keep the cattle, keep the land, the Indian kind of thing, Native American kind of Indian thing, um, format, the Jericho template. And he tells them, "For I have given the children of Lot this land." And then when you flip back to Genesis, I believe it is 19:30 through 36 or something like that, and it talks about the children of Lot. The children of Lot come from an act of incest, in which the Bible describes it as Lot uh, getting drunk and his two virgin tween, meaning that they're just entered into their um, uh, menstruation cycles, so they're probably between the ages of 11 to 13. Um, that while Lot is drunk, his daughters, and they're not at the same time. They don't say that it's simultaneously as a group event, but maybe back to back. They rape Lot, meaning that the whole process that goes, what we envision a man having sex with a virgin, a man having sex with a virgin girl. This goes with the age of consent from the founding fathers. Um, and the same thing with Mary too. Mary's age, the mother of Jesus, as much as people try to prescribe her as 16. But the founding fathers' interpretation of all of the ages of like the slave, I guess it's the slave that Abraham has sex with, to Lot's daughters, to Mary. they interpreted it as her coming of age, just that of just entering puberty. So therefore, the legal age of consent from the founding fathers' purview, and legally up until like the 1880s, was 10 years old, and it was a women trying to because I was beautiful, and it was a man's right to have beauty, and the American women who were fighting for the right to vote, as well as fighting for prohibition because the horrors that they suffered under the brutality of drunken men and laws that did not see women as saw women as less than slaves. In many sense, yeah, legally women were less than slaves. Um, they women fought for raising the age of consent for about for a long time, for right around the turn of the 1800s, all the way up into the 1880s, when I believe that they were successful at some point, and they raised it from 10 to 16. But the major argument that was used, besides brutal, vicious force, was one, it was a man's world. So representative government, which was men, they understood that women were confused as to not understanding that it was God's declared divine law that man should be like God, and throughout the Bible, it's very clear that God, if not advocates or actually does, in Mary's case, but overlooks or references with honor the children of rape. I'm sorry, not rape, the children of the children conceived by girls who just entered puberty. And the best way to ensure that the man gets the girl as a virgin as soon as she enters puberty is to make the age 10, or it's before she enters puberty, so that the man has already gotten some before. So it's just a nice, what do you call it, transition period. So, but women were fighting for some reason. Christian women, they didn't get it, and so while they were fighting for the evil right to vote and getting beat and getting raped and thrown into prison and insane asylums and lobotomized because they were crazy. It was like the new witch burnings were sending women to insane asylums or putting them in prisons, male prisons, and just leaving them there to be lost in that mayhem with men that were the same as the men that were outside. That's why they put them there. But that was the argument, is that one, and the other thing too was the founding fathers. Have we ever heard this one? The founding fathers, they knew best. How can you? Henry David Thoreau alludes to this in his 18 in his On the Duty of Civil Disobedience about lawyers, the bar associates. He says, you know, it's the bar associates thing is it's not my job to change what was set down by the founders, because and that's true because they make an oath to the Constitution. So the bar association was the biggest resistance legally on the legal format to women getting the age of consent raised from 10 to 16 in the United States, and they used Bible. They used the Bible, and you could say, oh, they didn't interpret it right or anything like that. Whatever. And they used brute force, and they used the desire that they had to hit it. So beauty is a template. Now, can you now here's a question. Can you? I guess no. Actually, there's ways to look at this. You can ask the question, like the ladies: is there an age of consent? And what they did is they said the best recourse that they could come up with is um, 16, which only meant that at 16 the girl lost her legal protection of her parents, her tutelage, so to speak, at which point she had no right or say in who she married or how he treated her. So the concept, that's what I mean. This is the whole republic concept. Is the women thought that they won something by getting the age of consent raised to 16. This is why that movie Color Purple is very disingenuous. Very disingenuous. Because they don't show any movie like that makes it look like it was an isolated thing in the black community, the or something like that. And I'm sure there's tribes. Don't get me wrong. There's stuff around the world. There's cases, in the book that I read yesterday about a tribe on an island community, and I forgot how to pronounce. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Uvia or something like that. They had a rites of passage ritual, or when a boy was 8 or 9 years old, that he was taken into a hut and that he was um, not brutally sodomized, but just what would be a typical sex act by the chief and 8 other men of the tribe, ranging from young adult, like 18-year-old, from the age of being able to carry a spear, up to the chief. And he was sodomized by them in ritualistic practice, and then um, that was his entry into manhood. So don't, but they didn't do that. They didn't do any kind of for women in that particular tribe. It should be noted. They didn't see women as having the same sexual appetites or desires. So in one sense, this was a way of preventing males from targeting females uh, to satisfy sexual urges, and to give them a perspective. This was from what I read. It was to give them a perspective of according to what the read of the chief. The chief said teach them the ways of applying affection in sexual relations. But they did, their tribe had a whole different sexual connotation. They didn't have a religious thing. Promiscuity was normal. And it's kind of funny because I thought this for a while. I assumed a few years back that in truth, for part of the and viciousness against homosexuality, the only way I could connect it is I see that all things that are hated now by what I consider fascism, which is basically Abraham is a template for all fascism, that the hatred goes towards all things of tribal societies, or would be called fourth world nations in today's legal terminology. Tribal societies are chauvinistic societies, and what I thought was how do how did tribal societies deal with raping women? And I figured that homosexuality was probably the go-to means, where it wasn't like you just like nowadays you got to pick with who you want to have sex with, and she didn't have a choice. Like a man could pick a 10-year-old in the United States, and then he had no choice, but she had to give it up. She had no recourse, and he could do it however often and brutal he wanted, which it was brutal in any case, or other even to 16, or and all these other things. But because the growing up as a boy, I knew that yeah, it was an appetite, as a very sincere appetite, and the catch is these religions they ploy on natural appetites because they use them to manufacture guilt, because that's the most primary way to herd. That's like the gate for the herd, guilt, and you can't get past it. It's a psychological construct. But I would say in the ancient primitive, I'm talking about 70,000 years ago, the fact that humanity has made it as far as we've made it, as a whatever you want to say, 200,000 years at least, in this genetic format, with this brain structure, and this entire skeletal structure and everything like that, taking into account my diet would have determined size and whatnot. but that our brains would have comprehended, and the fact that we made it so far, and that we're only coming to the brink of extinction on the rise of technology and civilization. But tribal shamanistic societies carried us for at least 140,000 years, 200,000 years, probably 200 and 190 192,000 years, tribal and shamanistic societies had allowed humanity to prosper and spread around the world and establish what ended up being co-opted by civilization. But I would say that in those tribal societies, the way that sexuality, the sexual appetites of men were probably dealt with, would be uh, consensual homosexual acts between the men. And hunting teams in particular, when they go out on a thing and they're on the road or whatever they did, that they probably had various rituals or social um, things in which men satisfied their sexual urges simultaneously with each other, and that women who would have been smart enough to know that, hey, you know what, if I have sex with a man, the probability of me having a baby is real. So as a tribe, they would have to regulate, they would birth control. Basically, what I'm saying is homosexuality was a form of birth control in tribal societies, and that women were the ones that ultimately had the say in the majority of ancient primitive, what we call primitive, because there we do know the earliest signs of worship goes with this whole bear thing, and the bear represents the mother, and the mother is also represented by the moon, and we see that the moon was the dominant means of the sun. The sun worship grew after the moon worship, and even into the sun worship, the moon was still the primary means of all calendars for all people. And we don't think that primitive people had calendars. Yes, they had calendars because they knew when to move, and they followed the stars. They're the ones that started astrology, the cave people. So everything that scientists act like they've taken it further because they have telescopes now. Yeah, it's easy to advance something that's already there, but they invented astronomy and astrology and time, using that as a concept of time. So, but in all of that awareness, uh, knowing when a woman knowing I can't be bearing a kid in our transit route for whatever thing, or I can't bear a kid because of this season, because we could tell the crops aren't whatever, hunting's down or something like that. So in those instances, men would be equally interested in the benefit of the tribe and the woman would have more say than any woman ever dreamed of having today. And so the men would resort to homosexual acts in whatever way. So, um, and it becomes ugly and brutal, because any echo of that tribal shamanistic societies have been the primary target. That's basically what I say is the Cain, or the Cain and Ham, the son of Noah, because Noah curses Ham, and Ham, the Bible interprets to be Canaan. And the way I see it is, the Bible basically focuses on the tribal societies of Africa first, to pit it against, and then when they come over to Christians come over to Americas, because the Chinese were here in 1421. But when the Christians come over here to America, they apply the same template from Abraham, which is kill all the indigenous tribal societies, consider them witchcraft and evil, and massacre them utterly, lest they be remembered. Because if any part of them is remembered, they pose a threat to this thought process, and they can contaminate you. How can they contaminate? Why are they such a threat? Because they call to the human heart, while fascism manipulates the human mind. Kill, kill, kill. Just like the Boko Haram, they think they're not Western. They're Western. They're a completely Western construct. Boko Haram, fight Western civilization. They're Islamic, and that's Abrahamic, and Abraham is Western civilization, and Abraham's ideology is kill, kill, kill. And even Jon Stewart shows a clip of the guy saying kill, kill, kill. So, what is beauty? I don't know. I guess we need to find out.